I can still hear that sound, the deafening crack of a gunshot echoing through my mother's hospital room. The walls shook, the machine screamed, and for a split second everything went silent, except for the sound of my own heartbeat. My mother, frail and pale from months of fighting cancer, was lying there bleeding, terrified, and the woman who pulled the trigger was from our HOA. Yeah, the Homeowners Association. The woman who once complained about our lawn had just tried to erase my world. My name's Ethan Miller, and I was 12 when my life fell apart. We lived in a quiet neighborhood called Cedar Valley Estates. White fences, trimmed hedges, perfect smiles. The kind of place that looked peaceful from the outside but felt like a cage if you stepped too close. My mom, Sarah, was the gentlest person you'd ever meet. She loved her garden, loved watching things grow. Even when the chemo drained the color from her face, she'd sit outside and talk to her tomato plants like they were her friends. My dad worked double shifts at the auto shop to pay for her treatments. I tried to help where I could, watering flowers, cutting grass, pretending everything was fine. But in Cedar Valley, nothing was ever fine unless Karen Mitchell said it was. She was the head of the HOA, and if there was ever a picture next to the word control freak, it'd be her. Perfect blonde bob, clipboard in hand, always with that smug little smile that said, "I'm better than you." She'd knock on doors just to point out whose trash bins weren't lined up straight. To her, rules mattered more than people. When Mom started getting weaker, the garden grew wild. The grass got long, paint peeled from the fence, and that's when the letters started. Karen sent them every week. Bright white envelopes with her neat little signature. Violation notice. Immediate action required. Failure to comply will result in fines. She even threatened legal action once. Mom tried to laugh it off. "We'll handle it later," she said, but I could see it broke her inside. I still remember one afternoon she was sitting on the porch wrapped in a blanket, too tired to stand. Karen marched up the walkway in her red blazer like she owned the place. "Sarah," she said sharply, "this yard is bringing down the property value of the entire block. You've had weeks to fix it." Mom tried to smile even then. "Karen, I've been very sick. I'm in treatment. I'll take care of it when I can." Karen folded her arms, staring down at her like a queen addressing a servant. "You've got 48 hours or I'll escalate this to legal enforcement." I stood behind the screen door, fists clenched, wanting to yell at her. But Mom just looked at me, shook her head gently, and whispered, "Let it go, sweetheart. Don't let bitterness win." When Mom's condition got worse, she was admitted to Memorial Heights Hospital. Room 312, third floor. Every afternoon I'd sit by her bed after school reading her favorite book while the machines hummed beside us. It was our little bubble, quiet, fragile, peaceful. I thought we were safe there, until the day the door slammed open. It wasn't a nurse. It wasn't a doctor. It was Karen Mitchell in that same red blazer, her hair pulled tight, her face twisted with rage. She barged in like she owned the place, shouting, "You think you can hide from me, Sarah? You think being sick excuses your responsibilities?" I jumped up from my chair, heart racing. "Hey, you can't be here. This is a hospital." She ignored me. She took another step forward, her eyes burning with hate. Mom's voice trembled. "Karen, please, not here. I can't deal with this right now." "Oh, I think you can," Karen snapped. "You owe the association over $800 in fines and your property looks like a junkyard. I'm done being ignored." Mom tried to sit up, clutching her chest. "We'll fix it. I promise. Just please leave." Karen's voice went up another octave. "You're not getting better, Sarah. You're just avoiding me." Then she reached into her bag. For a split second I thought she was pulling out more paperwork. But no. What she pulled out was a gun. A cold black pistol gleaming under the fluorescent lights. My whole body froze. I couldn't breathe. Mom's eyes went wide with horror. "Karen! No!" she screamed, using the last of her strength. "Please don't do this." But Karen's voice was shrill, unhinged. This is what happens when people break the rules. The gun fired. The sound was like thunder trapped in that tiny room. My ears rang, my body shook, and all I could see was blood blooming across the white sheets. Mom gasped a wet, choked sound, and then the machine started screaming. I lunged forward, pressing my hands over the wound, sobbing, "Mom, Mom, stay with me, please." Everything after that felt like a blur. I yelled for help, my voice cracking. Nurses rushed in shouting codes I didn't understand. The hallway exploded with noise. 3 police officers burst into the room, guns drawn. "Drop the weapon," one yelled. Karen stood there still holding the gun, trembling, but she didn't drop it. "She deserved it," she screamed. "She was ruining our neighborhood." The officers tackled her to the ground, her voice echoing down the hall. "I did this for the HOA. She broke the rules." I didn't care. I just kept my hands on my mother's chest, trying to stop the bleeding, whispering, don't go, please." They took her to surgery. I sat alone in the waiting room, knees pulled to my chest, surrounded by strangers crying for their loved ones. I kept replaying it in my head, the way Mom looked at me right before the shot, the way her hand went limp in mine. When my dad arrived, I ran into his arms shaking. "Dad, it was her, Karen, from the HOA. She came to the hospital and she shot Mom." He looked at me like he didn't believe it. "That's impossible. Nobody does something like that." "She did." I screamed. "She said Mom deserved it." Hours passed. Then a doctor came out, green scrubs, tired eyes, and I knew before she even spoke. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "We did everything we could. The wound was too severe." My dad dropped to his knees. I just stood there frozen. I couldn't cry, couldn't breathe. The world felt hollow, all because of a woman who thought a lawn mattered more than a life. The days that followed were a blur of police questions, paperwork, and quiet. Officers came to our house to collect evidence, Karen's letters, photos of our yard, the stack of fines she'd sent. Each one felt heavier than the last. One officer shook his head and said, "This was premeditated. She's being charged with first-degree murder." But none of that brought Mom back. Her funeral was on a rainy Thursday. I wore a black suit that didn't fit anymore. People said nice things, how kind she was, how brave, but all I could think about was how unfair it was. She'd fought cancer with grace, but she couldn't survive cruelty. After that, I shut down. I stopped going to school, stopped talking. My dad tried, but he was drowning too, coming home late, staring at old photos until his eyes turned red. I thought maybe it would be better if I just stopped feeling altogether. I started to believe Karen was right, that maybe if we'd just followed the rules, none of this would have happened. One night my grandmother sat beside me at the kitchen table. "You think your mother would want you to give up?" she said softly. I didn't answer. "She'd tell you to stand up, Ethan, to fight back with truth, not hate." Those words stuck with me. Months later, we were called to testify at Karen's trial. The courthouse smelled like old wood and disinfectant. When they led her in, she looked smaller but still defiant. She avoided my eyes. The prosecutor played the security footage from the hospital hallway, the sound of the gunshot echoing through the courtroom. Everyone went silent. I felt sick watching it again, but I forced myself not to look away. I owed Mom that much. When it was my turn to speak, I stood there, my palms sweaty, voice trembling, and told them everything. How Karen had harassed us for months. How she barged into the hospital. How my mom begged her to stop. Karen's lawyer tried to make her sound insane, said she didn't know what she was doing. But the prosecutor shut that down fast. He held up a pile of HOA letters, the ones with Karen's neat handwriting. "This wasn't madness," he said. "It was arrogance. A woman who valued property values more than human life." Karen didn't flinch. Not once. She just sat there like we were the problem. When the jury came back, the room went dead quiet. Guilty of first-degree murder. Karen blinked, stunned, as if she'd expected to win, as if she still thought she was right. I didn't cheer, I didn't smile, but for the first time in months I felt steady, like justice, however late, had finally arrived. After the trial, life didn't magically get better. Grief doesn't work like that. Some mornings I'd still wake up and expect to hear Mom humming in the kitchen. The silence hurt. But Dad and I started rebuilding slowly. We fixed the fence not because of HOA rules, but because Mom loved that house. We planted yellow daisies in the front yard, her favorite. A year later, standing by her grave, I felt the wind brush my face, gentle and warm. and I thought maybe, just maybe, that was her telling me it was okay to move forward. Karen Mitchell lost everything that day, her power, her control, her freedom. But I lost something far greater. And yet somehow I gained the one thing she never understood, the courage to speak up. Because if this story taught me anything, it's this: when people care more about rules than compassion, someone has to remind them what humanity really looks like.